Did you see Jerry Rig Everything mog every YouTuber who's afraid of having a political stance? Wait, did Jerry Rig Everything endorse Kamala Harris? Holy shit, he did. Okay, I am fully going to, I'm going to admit to my bias here. I fully thought this guy was going to go MAGA. He has a bunch of like Cybertruck, this and that videos, tech fetishes. Like to me, it was he has like build a prepper basement. Like, can we for less than this amount of money build like a prepper basement in my backyard, in my like rural family farm home, you know? But that's great. I don't want to think in essentialist terms. I don't want to look at a guy and say, you know, shaved head man with no beard, MAGA, you know? I want life to be beautiful and rich and diverse. That's awesome. I'll watch the full thing, man. I've enjoyed a few Jerry Rig Everything videos. He's told it like it is. I just had that feeling in my gut a little bit, but I'm glad that I was wrong. I love being wrong when it comes to stuff like this.
So I've been making videos for about 14 years now. There have been about 9 million of you following our path through the electric Humvee, all through our deeper grooves, and more recently, building out my 26,000...
He runs a company that makes wheelchairs and gives loads of them away. Does he? Okay. I didn't know that. I'm not like an expert on the guy. I didn't know that. That's definitely like anti-MAGA coded.
1,000 square foot wheelchair manufacturing facility.
Okay.
Healthcare is a really big deal for me, and in my opinion, the most important thing a government can do. If not to protect and take care of its citizens, what is the point of government at all? Even freaking Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers, said an attention to health should take the place of every other object, while advocating for free distribution of the smallpox vaccine at the same time. The idea that healthcare should be very inexpensive has been around for a very long time. And this might come as a surprise, but right now in the United States, thanks to the Affordable Care Act...
Being considerate of disabled people is one of the biggest tells that you're not a fascist, because contempt of the disabled is like one of their top things. Remember Donald Trump, the expose that came out from one of his relatives where he was like talking to Donald Trump about disabled accessibility, and Donald Trump offhandedly said, why don't we just let those people die? He didn't even think about it. It was described as an offhand comment, you know? But one of the number one things the Nazis propagandized about was the like useless eaters bit, you know? The idea if you can't be like used by the state, then you are worthless. The crazy thing to me, it was his own nephew, yeah. The crazy thing to me, like the wild thing to me, is that if you were disabled back in the 1930s or 1940s, you were probably not as useful to society in a lot of ways, because the jobs back then were often limited to the kinds of things. Society didn't do much to accommodate you. You needed a lot of accommodations, and the work back then tended to demand ability from you. Nowadays, that's not even true. Like, to continue to do the useless eaters bit when like half of Americans have an email job is crazy. You can be a live streamer. This is a job. Somehow. It's like cruelty for the sake of cruelty. That's the point that I'm making here, where it was never like a cold utilitarian analysis of society's need and ability to accommodate people with needs, and the Nazis were like cruelly deciding that they didn't want to bear the cost. The obsession with culling the weak is an irrational one. It's the cruelty is the point. It's not about like saving money. They don't care about saving money. It's about hurting people.
More Americans have health insurance than at any point in history. The problem is, and this is a huge problem, we have an election right now where one side wants to expand on the Affordable Health Care Act and one side wants to disband it entirely. I know this is about American issues, but the consequences of our elections have ways of trickling throughout the rest of the world. Which, you know me, I'm not opposed to hearing new ideas and new plans, and I agree that the US healthcare system is far from perfect, but getting rid of the ACA entirely without a replacement plan in place is going to let Americans suffer, struggle, and even die in very undignified ways and places. The contrast between our two candidates for this election is night and day. One side, Vice President Harris wants to expand the Affordable Care Act to include home hospice. Dying of old age in your own home while not going bankrupt is probably the most dignified way you can go.
I really like that he's taking this from like a policy perspective as well. I have always thought that Democrats genuinely undersell how horrific the revocation of the ACA could be. Like, I think that, remember how effectively they capitalized on the revocation of Roe v. Wade? At the DNC, they had those horrific stories about women who suffered because of its revocation. Like the woman who was raped by her own father when she was a child, and, you know, so on and so forth. I think they've needed to do that with the ACA. Like before Obamacare, you know, I couldn't get, you know, the life-saving medicine because I coughed once when I was 3 years old, that kind of thing.
On the other side, when 78-year-old Donald Trump was asked what his healthcare plan is, after 9 years of campaigning for president, his answer was, I have concepts of a plan. Take a listen.
I remember that.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now.
And I understand
he's been saying that for 9 years now. 9 years. 2016. So all he wanted to do in his first term was revoke the ACA, which he failed to do in its entirety because of John McCain. John McCain's like final gasp of air before he died was voting no on that. And then, but he never had a plan for following it up. He's been asked this question over and over. There is no plan. Absolutely none. The only healthcare plan they have is for you to die. That's it. Donald Trump has long been in communication with American insurance companies, and the insurance companies told him, we would like it if people gave us more money for less. And he said, okay. They probably played some golf at Mar-a-Lago, and that's it. That's it. That's the plan.
Not president right now, but he was president and he's applying for the job. He should have a plan. Back when Trump was president, he campaigned on the whole notion of getting rid of the Affordable Care Act and almost succeeded in 2017, but was thwarted by one vote. Republican John McCain—
This guy just watched my live stream and he's ripping my bit.
Voted to save health care for 50 million Americans. It was worse than you remember. During 4 years in office, Trump not only tried to eliminate the Health Care Act entirely, but also cut research spending for spinal cord injuries, disbanded the pandemic response team in 2018, and we all know how that turned out, and he says he'll do it again with the pandemic response team that just got reinstated. He didn't learn his lesson the first time. And even now in 2024, he's—
I completely forgot about that. I read that snippet and I didn't even bring it to stream. I forgot about that. Well, my man's consistent, if nothing else.
Still wants to abolish the Affordable Care Act and take us back to 25 years ago when insurance companies could reject someone for pre-existing condition, which is absolutely bonkers because 1 in 4 Americans has a disability, which is the definition of a pre-existing condition. I have my own opinions on why Trump is actually running for president, but it is for sure not to help out people who need help the most. He's playing games.
Who's this guy again? This is Jerry Rigs Everything, a colossal tech-focused YouTube channel. Probably most famous for throwing phones on the ground over and over. Yeah, phone durability tests. I think this is quite based. Oh yeah, there's his wife right there. The Big Rig, world's lightest 4-wheel drive off-road wheelchair. Sick. We love a wife guy. Unironically, we love a wife guy. One of the most genuine, like, positive attributes that you can have is to be a pure wife guy. Not like, you know, an impure wife guy, but to be doing like a, you know, Gomez Adams bit. We love that. Anyway, my opinion is that a lot of tech YouTube is either politically neutral or Hitlerite, and there's a lot of like coded Elon support on that side of YouTube, and Elon is of course a Hitlerite. So I'm very much in favor of this. I'm delighted by this. I'll watch it through. I'm delighted.
Games making fun of people's looks, weights, and abilities, and there's nothing manly about that. Getting rid of the Affordable Care Act without a replacement plan in place ready to go would be catastrophic on a level we've never seen for 50 million real Americans. And not so fun fact, the United States is the only high-income country that does not have some form of universal health care, and is the only country where one side is trying to get rid of what little health care we do have. And keep in mind, I'm no expert, and neither is Vice President Harris, but anytime she's asked a question where she doesn't have the answer, she surrounds herself with a team of people, both Democrat and Republican.
I don't endorse this messaging at all.
who do have the answers. She surrounds herself with experts, which is exactly what I would want the leader of the free world to do, and most importantly, she has a plan. Tim Walz also has a son with a nonverbal learning disability and knows firsthand what living with a disability is like, and will be an excellent advocate. And I'm not just going off of what Kamala...
In his later Cybertruck video, he says he's probably going to sell them because he doesn't want his wheelchair company to be associated with Elon. That's so based. That's so based.
Harris says she's going to do. The Biden and Harris administration has accomplished quite a lot, capping insulin payments at $35, signing the Parkinson's Act, and making healthcare part of regular healthcare plans. Not to mention launching the Cancer Moonshot, which is the most aggressive cancer research and elimination campaign that the United States has ever seen. And I'm a huge fan of her plan to include home care for the elderly in the Affordable Care Act, especially as all of our parents are getting older. Everyone gets old eventually. And you might be saying, well, the government spends too much money on other things already. And it turns out that the universal health care is actually $480 billion cheaper than health care for nobody, because we eliminate the astronomical prices that the middlemen and insurance companies charge. Add to that, both Democrats and Republicans historically spend about the same amount of money anyway. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but if I had to pick, I would rather my tax dollars go towards people who actually need it then end up as a tax cut for some rich guy's third yacht. Life is extremely short, and there's no reason that someone should struggle through it for healthcare reasons, and there's no reason to make someone else struggle through it either.
This is
not the whole point of this community that we have here in the United States to help people who might not be able to help themselves. The point of this video is that I like a competent team that has a plan instead of a singular person that has concepts of a plan, which is why for the 2024 election, I am voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz for President of the United States. On a more serious note, Donald Trump is a very different person now than he was 10 years ago. A lot has changed, and I would invite you to sit through one of his 2-hour rallies or watch his podcast with Joe Rogan that's about 3 hours long, or even watch the debate between Kamala and Trump and see if he's still your guy. Lately, he wants to abolish the Department of Education, restructure the military, and bring in Elon and RFK Jr. to slash government agencies, which is new. And another not-so-fun fact, Argentina did the exact same government-slashing agency thing, and their inflation is up 200%. This is recently, not 2% like the United States right now, 200%. Apparently, slicing and dicing your...
Argentina's inflation actually has gone way down now. That's like the yearly aggregate, or like the yearly total. But if like at the current rate, month by month, it's gone down quite a bit. However, their economy is still in tatters. Inflation isn't the only like measure of an economy's performance.
Our own government doesn't spark a lot of confidence in the economy. And on an even more serious note, just last week Donald Trump said he was going to imprison anyone who helped out with the Harris campaign. Political operatives and donors are going to get long prison sentences based on whatever his definition of skullduggery is. And I guess that now includes me, with this video and my maxed out personal contribution to the Harris campaign, and my vote for Harris-Walz 2024.
This is so
probably now on Trump's list for jail time, which is an extremely un-American thing of him to suggest in the first place. But when he says something, believe him. That's not the USA I know, though, and I don't think that we will give him that second chance. As an ordinary citizen, right now Trump does not have any governmental power, and I think we should keep it that way. So get out and vote, and if this video helps even one more person make up their mind and get to the polls, then I would consider this video a success. The election ends on November 5th, and I highly recommend to go out and vote early. And
oh, he's liking all the damn comments. All right, well, people seem positive enough, but also he was liking all the damn comments. Yeah, no, it's just nice. Yeah, for the most part, like looking at content creators online, it's basically just a non-stop like onslaught of grifters and narcissists saying that they're voting for Donald Trump because it's based or something. So it is nice to have like a reason, you know, it is nice to hear that and be reminded that stuff like that can still happen.